Last night, the triumphant return of the product herself, Angel Reese.
Chicago Sky have had an extremely disappointing 2025 season. I'm telling you right now, it was horrible.
That was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen.
One press conference question changed everything. When Angel Reese was asked if she still believed people watch women's basketball because of her, her response sent shockwaves through the WNBA community. Two words that would haunt her career and expose a truth nobody wanted to admit. The cameras caught it all, and what happened next would divide fans, break the internet, and reveal the brutal reality behind the hype.
Welcome back, Reese. So pretty.
Caitlin Clark comes in and is immediately the biggest star in the league. Immediately. And merchandising in every other way.
The statement that started this whole mess came straight from Angel Reese herself. Fresh off LSU's championship run and riding high on her rivalry with Caitlin Clark, she boldly declared to the world that people watch women's basketball because of her too. It wasn't just confidence, it was a direct challenge to Clark's growing dominance. Reese positioned herself not as a supporting character, but as an equal draw, someone who could fill arenas and move the needle. Those words would come back to haunt her in ways she never imagined.
So, Angel, of course, so happy to be back, and she was welcomed back by so many fans. Oh, dearly beloved.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, they understand that this is the priority. Obviously, there's no place for this, and they preach. I think 2 days before they put out no hate, no speech.
But here's where reality crashes into rhetoric. While Reese was making headlines with her mouth, Clark was making history with her impact. Chicago Sky home games struggled to hit 8,000 fans on average, while Indiana Fever games with Clark were selling out 17,000-seat arenas night after night. The numbers weren't even close. Every single Fever home game became an event, with tickets disappearing faster than concert passes for a superstar. Meanwhile, Chicago was dealing with rows of empty seats that told their own story.
Show attendance. Wow.
The contrast became painfully obvious when you looked at specific games. Chicago Sky versus Minnesota Lynx pulled just 4,600 fans, while Minnesota, a smaller market, managed 7,600 in their own building. These weren't the numbers of a player shifting culture, these were Tuesday night in February numbers. When Reese returned to LSU for a preseason game at her old stomping grounds, barely 6,000 fans showed up to an arena that holds over 13,000. Less than half full for someone claiming to be a major draw.
6,373 fans showed up last night.
Clark's impact was on a completely different level. Iowa's Carver Hawkeye Arena saw 15,000 seats disappear in 45 minutes, and that momentum followed her straight to the WNBA. Fever games weren't just basketball, they were cultural events. When Clark made the jump to professional basketball, the explosion wasn't gradual, it was immediate. Preseason tickets were going for $600, NBA-level pricing for a league that historically couldn't touch those numbers. The business side was being rewritten in real time.
I think the WNBA and our team and our organization has done a great job supporting me. I've had communication from everyone, from so many people across this league, and being able to support me and going through this whole process. Obviously, it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone.
Social media became a battlefield. When the attendance numbers couldn't be ignored any longer, fans started posting side-by-side comparisons of Clark's packed arenas versus Chicago's half-empty venues. The memes wrote themselves. Screenshots of attendance figures went viral, with Clark's sellouts highlighted next to Reese's struggling crowds. Even Chicago Sky loyalists were getting frustrated, demanding something to rally around beyond empty promises and bold statements.
A lot of Angel Reese fans are not basketball fans, and they are proving it.
The merchandising numbers painted an even clearer picture. Clark's jersey sales were sitting right behind Steph Curry's, outpacing NBA All-Stars and legends. Yes, Steph Curry. A rookie's name was above established superstars when it came to merchandise, which was absolutely insane for someone just entering the league. Meanwhile, 41 out of 44 Fever games were scheduled for national television, giving Clark 93% coverage. That's more exposure than some NBA teams get in certain years.
So you know the basketball superstar Caitlin Clark. She is in the Women's National Basketball Association. Big star, huge star, brilliant player. Okay, she's on the Indiana team.
When the heat got too intense, Reese's own mother jumped into the controversy with a tweet that made everything worse. She posted that while some fans celebrate attendance, they celebrate banners, essentially telling people to forget about the fans and look at the hardware instead. But that's not how modern sports work. Fans want energy, they want to feel like they're witnessing history, and when the numbers show the opposite, they talk fast on social media platforms.
Taking the high road or trying to say the right things in these interviews, she doesn't. Whether she's saying what's on her mind or not, it doesn't always come across as likable. It doesn't come across as something relatable. It comes across as she is trying to also get that same spotlight, that same notoriety as Caitlin Clark.
Breaking down the game-by-game reality was brutal for Chicago. Regular matchups that should have drawn decent crowds were pulling numbers that looked more like minor league baseball than professional women's basketball. While Clark was turning every arena into a headline-generating spectacle, Reese was facing empty chairs that screamed louder than any crowd ever could. The scoreboard in the stands doesn't lie, and it was telling a story nobody in Chicago wanted to hear.
Apparently, there's some jealousy that might be manifesting itself into physical inappropriate conduct.
Indiana didn't just luck into Caitlin Clark and hope for the best. They opened the playbook and went full chess master mode. The Fever brought in players like Sophie Cunningham, Natasha Howard, and Dana Bonner, names that don't just fill roster spots but elevate the entire team. Every signing felt intentional, like pieces clicking into place around their franchise player. They treated Clark like the phenomenon she was becoming, marketing her properly and building an identity around her impact.
People that are resentful towards her. But it's really not about her, guys. It's about what she represents.
Chicago took a completely different approach with Angel Reese. Instead of building a clear system around her strengths, it felt like a team reacting to headlines rather than creating them. There was no obvious plan, no clear vision for how to maximize her talent and turn it into something bigger. The revolving door of uncertainty showed on the court and in attendance figures that kept disappointing. While Indiana was creating a movement, Chicago was just trying to stay relevant.
Quote, I don't know if we can make that same offer.
The girl is spectacular. It's not like she's not a scrub. She's not only can play, she's a star caliber player who draws this attention. And maybe it's because that fan base that she has and her being a young white lady contributes to it. So what?
The brutal truth behind this entire controversy is simple. Talking about being a draw doesn't make it true. Angel Reese famously claimed people watch women's basketball because of her too, but the receipts tell a completely different story. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark never had to say a word about her impact because her attendance numbers, jersey sales, and national television coverage did all the talking. Actions speak louder than words, and the numbers revealed a gap that no amount of bold statements could bridge. When you put yourself in the conversation with greatness, you better have the results to back it up.
Ice Cube's literally saying, we sat down, looked at the actual figures, and the draw wasn't there. The fever wasn't there. Oh, no pun intended. Angel Reese was not going to be able to bring in the amount of eyes for the sponsors and...
But the story gets even more uncomfortable when you dig deeper into the press conference moment that went viral. When that reporter asked the simple question about whether she still believed people watched because of her, everyone expected Reese to double down or at least explain her position. Instead, she delivered two words that sent shockwaves across social media. Next question, no defense, no numbers, no energy, just a cold dodge that made the room freeze. Reporters stared in disbelief while fans immediately started clipping the moment. Within hours, it was everywhere on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, but people weren't cheering. They were laughing.
Wow, I'm not sure any other single, outside of just the pure numbers that we keep showing people, literal numbers. What should have been a massive, huge day for your sponsors and for your networks is going to be anything but that.
The timing of that press conference couldn't have been worse for Reese. This wasn't some random reporter trying to stir up trouble. This was her own bold statement from the previous year coming back to demand accountability. She had confidently positioned herself as someone who moved the needle for women's basketball, claiming she was a major reason the sport was thriving. That's the kind of declaration that sticks with you, and when you make claims that big, the receipts will eventually come due whether you're ready or not.
Sponsors assured him Clark coming to his organization would rake in cash hand over fist. But, quote, they didn't tell us the same thing about Angel Reese.
What made the whole situation even more painful was the contrast with Clark's quiet dominance. While Reese was dodging questions about her impact, Clark was literally forcing the WNBA to move games to bigger arenas because of demand. The league was scrambling to accommodate the crowds she was drawing, expanding facilities, and treating every Fever appearance like a special event. That's the kind of star power that doesn't need press conferences or bold statements. It just exists in the form of sold-out venues and record-breaking attention.
Okay, because she's brilliant, right? That's why she's wreaking havoc. Because she is so good.
And we have grown-ass men and women out here doing whatever they can to try to make sure that does not happen. That is the weirdest thing in the world, but it is what it is, and I'm glad that Caitlin has a great head on her shoulders.
The fan reaction to Reese's next question moment revealed something deeper about what people expect from their sports stars. Chicago Sky supporters weren't being cruel, they were disappointed. You could almost hear them saying, "Talk less, show more." As the clip circulated online. They wanted to believe in their player, wanted to feel like they were backing someone who was building something special. When they saw her duck the very conversation she had started, it felt like a betrayal of that trust, like the confidence had been hollow all along.
I'm not sure anything's been more evidence to what we've been saying.
The aftermath of that press conference exposed the difference between manufactured hype and organic stardom. Clark's rise felt natural and unstoppable, backed by performance and results that nobody could argue with. Every milestone she hit seemed to unlock another level of attention and respect. Meanwhile, Reese's situation felt forced, like trying to convince people of something that the numbers simply didn't support. The uncomfortable silence after those two words said everything about where each player stood in the hierarchy of women's basketball.